Hello, hello. All right. Welcome to the Hafey Digital podcast, behind the scenes, pre-show, fun stuff. This is the part of the show that you don't hear on the audio version, I might add. This is the part of the show where I go through and make sure all systems are go, and we just kind of hang out for a little bit, you know what I mean? Just hang out and till we're ready to go. We're going to take our time today. And let's see. Oh, you know what? Funny. We're not up on Facebook again. Restream. What's up with that? Oh, well, Facebook, you're not going to see my pretty face today. Twitter, we're up. Let's see. Looks like YouTube, we're up. Fantastic. Twitch should be kicking in here any moment now. Oh. Hey, Google, turn on the studio. There we go. All right. So, what is it? Today's Sunday. We're starting a little bit early today because I feel like it. You know what I mean? And because I had the opportunity to start a little bit earlier. And if I can start earlier, I'm going to, because that means that I can get to the other things that I need to get to today a little bit faster, because Sundays are usually pretty busy. After the podcast, I get everything uploaded and out the door. And then from here, we basically go out and run some errands, do the grocery shopping for the week. Then we got to pick up my kids. Then I come back, and then I produce another podcast later today. So always a lot going on Sundays. But let's go through and make sure everything is up and running so we can get this show on the road. First of all, no dropped frames, which is good. Just had a nice fast speed test before starting the live stream. We're going to attempt to record into the Roadcaster. I played with some things. I mentioned it last week about getting all of my inputs to record into the Rode. So we're going to try that and see if it works out. Okay, that's good. That's good. Cameras are on. Camera 2, camera 3, up and running. Very good. Audio here, recording, streaming, recording. Boom, boom, boom. Lights are on. I think we are ready to go everywhere. I'm going to take a sip of some sparkling cranberry water stuff. One of my favorite just sipping beverages. All right. What am I missing? Are we good? Okay. So this is episode number 68. And why do I feel like I always feel like I'm missing something. This is that point where I'm like, what am I missing? But I'm not missing anything. And we're just going to get into it then. Hello and welcome to episode number... Back that one up a little bit. Hello and welcome to episode number 68. Oh my God, what is going on today? It's, what is today? Sunday? Okay, let's slow down a little bit. That's going to be one of my goals for today, is to slow down a little bit. Hello and welcome to episode number 68 of the Hafey Digital Podcast, a show for creators, makers, and doers. My goal is to help you make to the max. My name is Ryan, and in this episode, we're going to be critiquing some of my favorite video podcast studios. Let's get into it. Hello, welcome to the show. Thought I would do something a little bit different in the beginning there, switching camera angles for my intro. And it turns out that that's more complicated and harder to do than I thought. I thought it would be pretty seamless not that I practiced it. I mean, I just had to press a couple buttons, but that was a little challenging. Oh, so let's see. Today is Sunday, March 21st. And this last week wasn't too eventful. I wish I could say it was. But as I mentioned before the show, by the way, if you're listening to this podcast right now through your favorite podcast audio player. And by the way, let's back up a little bit. If you're new here, my name is Ryan, and I am interested in all things video creation, photography, podcasting, live streaming, FPV on occasion, and all things in between, lighting, all that kind of stuff. And this podcast is where I share my knowledge of those things and also share my progress through the various projects that I'm working on that have to do with those things. So if that is something that you think you might be interested in, please, wherever you happen to be watching or listening, smash that subscribe button and follow me on social media at Ryan Hafey on Instagram and Twitter. And feel free to drop me a line after the show is over and let's have a conversation. But one of the things that I have felt in past episodes is that I'm going a little bit too fast in these episodes. I feel like I have to get on here and rush through things for some reason. And that causes me to almost the entire time feel like I'm out of breath. So I feel like I'm not a big fan of waste, right? Whether it's, wasting food or wasting time, wasting energy, whatever it is. I like to conserve as much as possible in that sense. So I think for me, it's almost natural to want to just rush through everything and feel like I can get out as much information in as short of a period of time as possible. When in reality, doing so kind of, it affects, I think, my delivery and my presentation here. So what I want to try to do is just calm down a little bit, take some time to catch my breath, maybe speak a little bit slower, maybe make, change the ambiance of the podcast a little bit, soften my voice, maybe put some of you in a relaxing state. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to be slowing down a little bit. I don't want to be rushing through these episodes. I want to have fun with them. So that's what we're going to do. Got a chance to finally get out and fly the drone this past week. It was like the first time I was able to fly within a week. And I think the last time that I flew, I went to this park that I frequent by my house, and I was trying to attempt a power loop, which I'm still not good at power loops, and I do them a lot in the simulators. So I think that I can just easily go out and do one. And I was flying underneath this sort of little, I don't know, whatever you would call this little bodega thing. I was flying through it, and I was going to fly up and then do a power loop and come back through it, or at least try. And I didn't give it enough throttle. So, and it's an equestrian park, so you get people that bring their horses and stuff over there. There were no horses this day, but as I flew through it and as I came back from the power loop, didn't have enough power and basically just flew face first into some loose dirt inside of this horse pen, whatever you would call it. So the drone was fine. I just had to clean the motors out a little bit and get some of the dust and debris out, which I've had to do a few times already. So then after that, just life was a little busy, and it's been windy outside here in Las Vegas for a while, so I didn't get a chance to go out and fly. So then I finally found some time to do it, and on a day where the weather was nice. And I go to that same park, and I get cocky, and I'm flying around. So there's this big open area where you can just kind of fly through, and then there's the equestrian stuff off to the left based on where I'm facing. If you fly to the other end of this big open area, there's kind of like, there's some desert trails, and there's a bridge that goes over like I guess you would call it a water overflow channel or something. It's usually dry because it rarely rains here, but there's a bridge that goes over that. And I thought I could kind of sneak off, maybe sneak under that bridge and have fun with it, and then swing back around closer to me. And I went for it. And it was like, there wasn't even a warning like, oh, your signal's going down. It was just, boom, you're done. You're done flying today. I was on my first battery, like 2 minutes into the flight. And it went down the moment I tried to go under this bridge. So I had to just basically pack it up. I had to get in my car, drive down the street about a half a mile, and then park in this nearby dog park area, and then walk. Luckily, there was a way to, because normally they block those water channels off, but I think they might have even vandalized it, I don't know, but there was a way to get down there, and I was able to go get the drone. And luckily, I don't recall going very fast, and I must not have been, but luckily the drone was fully intact. and it just kind of scuffed up the bottom of it a little bit. So I didn't even have to replace any propellers, nothing like that. So really the only thing I lost was some time and some practice. Yeah, so there's that. And I don't know when it's because it's going to be windy today. I might be able to get up again tomorrow. I don't know. Also published another YouTube short last week. If you, I should link it in the description. It is not in the description yet. But this one is about how to reveal text in Premiere Pro. So let's say you want just kind of text to appear. If you want text to appear out of nowhere in your video, there are ways to do that in Premiere without having to go into something like After Effects and do a text reveal. And it's pretty simple. And my YouTube Shorts, as all YouTube Shorts are, is under a minute. So if you want to learn how to do that in less than a minute in Premiere Pro, there you go. Okay, so with that, that's really, I wrote it down on my list. I was almost not going to bring it up because it hasn't even happened yet. And I have a tendency to speak things into existence that never come to fruition. So I'm just going to say it and I'll put it out there, but I'm planning a rebrand of this podcast soon. I actually found a website. I forget what the website is called, but because I'm not a big branding guy, and I'm not a big design guy, but I did find a website. I think it's coolors.co, COOLORS.co. And basically it allows you to kind of like choose brand colors. So I'll put it up on the screen here. So these are the colors that I came up with. Obviously the red, the black, and the white, or off-white in this case, which are kind of, similar colors to what I have in my scheme. I like this color of green, and obviously this cyan color kind of matches the cyan behind me here. So I thought that these would be an interesting color palette. And what the way that the site works is you'll be presented with these 5 columns. You'll just keep clicking on a color until you find a color that you like. Let's go here. Ooh. Until you find a color that you like, and then the remaining colors that appear will work from a design standpoint with that first color. So this black and this red, according to the website, work well with each other. And the more you go down, you'll keep locking in colors until you come up with a color scheme that you like. And this is what I've come up with. I've made a couple little branding, like my Instagram profile picture right now is based around this color scheme. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of rebranding around that. I think it's time. I think, the initial, let me go back here. The initial color scheme that I've had, and the color scheme that I've had since the beginning of the podcast is getting a little old to me. I still want to stick with the red theme, but it's time to switch it up a little bit. Anyway, moving on from that, let's get into these studio reviews. So I thought it would be fun today to go and find a list of some of my favorite podcasts. And, I know the title of this is a video podcast studio rating and critique. Okay, so I changed it. I forgot. Before I had it like top podcasts or popular podcasts. I took that out because these are top podcasts to me. These are podcasts that I either do frequently consume or have in the past. And I thought it would be fun. I got a list of 8 of them. Thought it'd be fun to go through and just critique the look of their studio based on 4 different criteria, that being lighting, set design / set layout, camera angles, and then just kind of the overall color grade. And then talk through as well what I would do differently if it were me. We will not be critiquing the quality of the content or the quality of the audio in this case for 2 reasons. One, this is purely aesthetic, that that we're reviewing aesthetic things, and number 2, if I play any of the audio back or any of the video, I'm likely to get a copyright strike of some kind. So we're not going to do that, and hopefully we don't get any copyright strikes by showing the actual YouTube, like frames of the YouTube videos themselves, but we'll see. So with that said, let me update this. We've got a list of 8. I'm going to go through, and I'm calling this Studio Scrutiny, and I just came up with that right before this show. So I would like to actually be able to do this more frequently, So if you have a video podcast, you want me to critique your studio, or if there's a podcast studio out there that you've seen that you're like, oh, okay, that'd be kind of cool to get Ryan's take on it, leave it in the comments. And, I'm hoping to do more of these. So we'll see. So with that said, let's pull up, and maybe I'll even make an intro for this. Here we go. Let's pull up the YouTubes. So the first one on my list is Philip DeFranco. There we go. Okay. Is Philip DeFranco's A Conversation With podcast. Philip DeFranco, if you don't know, for the three people who don't know, he's a popular news YouTuber, been around for ages. Millions of subscribers on his main channel. He's got 280,000 subscribers on his A Conversation With podcast channel. But we're going to kind of scrub through this a little bit and give our take on the podcast studio. So, all right. So first off, let's go through the different criteria. We'll talk lighting. So let's talk camera angles. So it's kind of clear, just going back and forth, that so he's got a few different angles. Oh, I just lost the wide angle. It looks like he's got this angle, an angle for his guest, and then give me back a wide angle. Come on. And then I think there it was, a wide angle that shows both of them at the same time, which I'm having a hard time getting a frame of because they keep jumping around. Nope. So you can't do it. There it is. Okay. All right. So camera angles. I like the camera angles. I think it's pretty simple. Like the 3-camera setup is perfect. You get one for the host, you get one for the guest, and then you get a wide shot to kind of show what's going on. In this case, lighting. I don't have much of an issue with lighting. I think for this particular purpose, like there's the lighting that they have, at least on the host and the guest, there's not a ton of contrast. It's a little bit flat lighting, but for this type of scenario, I don't think you need to go through and do anything super dramatic. I think just some nice overall soft general lighting, even if it's a little bit flat, it works fine with this. The wide shot, you get the logo in there, you get some nice little aesthetic things and trinkets and stuff going on in the background. I think there's potential for those things in the background to maybe get a little bit distracting because there's a lot of them, a lot of little trinkets and things like that. But as far as how it looks, I love the lighting of the under the accent lighting around the shelves, and I think all the trinkets that are back there fit. Again, it's just kind of a lot, and it makes it a little bit busy. But the wide shot looks cool. I like how they framed it so that you get both guests and the logo in at the same time. It looks a little bit off in that, I mean, this bothers me from a symmetry standpoint a little bit, because you see over here you've got this, and I apologize to anyone listening to the audio version of this because, again, another visual podcast, but I'll try to explain this as much as possible. So they're set. They've got a nice big table, 2 big microphones behind them. They've got a few shelves with some trinkets and things on them, some accent lighting, and blue wallpaper behind it. And then outside of that, there is some red walls with like these kind of industrial looking lights going up them. Now, I'm a sucker for symmetry big time. For me, this bothers me because it looks like the shelves in the background go a little bit behind. It's longer on one side than the other, and the guest is more up against a red wall. But on the side of the host, there's also a red wall. Yet when they go to on the guest cam, the primary background, or I would say taking up maybe 80% of the background space, is a red wall, which is the red wall with that kind of the industrial lighting. And then if you go over to Philip's side, it's probably, 55-60% of the blue background, with the rest being the red wall. I do like the idea of, and you would see it on the old school, like Joe Rogan podcast when he was in his old studio, where his background was, I think it was like his brick wall or some art or something that was behind him, and then behind the guests you would have these drapes. And I actually kind of liked that in the sense that it sort of separates host from guest, and there's some clear separation there. But in this, I like kind of what they did there. I just wish that maybe they would have been more deliberate in having the blue background exclusively for the host, and then the red background exclusively for the guest. Again, this is more my symmetry, but like just as far as aesthetically speaking, I think it looks really good. I like the background accent lighting. Visually, it's very appealing. What was my other criteria? Camera angles, we talked about that. Set design, talked about that. Color grade, overall colors. I mean, again, there's nothing super extravagant about the colors here. They look fine. They don't look cinematic, but they're not going for cinematic. So can't say I have much else to say there. So if I had to rate this podcast studio on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to go with a 7.3. And again, it's mostly, I would tweak a couple things on the lighting for me personally, for my personal preference, to give it a little bit more contrast. And then I would also, if I had the ability to do so, I would change the background and maybe change the positioning of the guest and everything so that the two camera angles, I don't know, it would have to be more symmetrical for my taste. And that's just kind of the box that I operate in. But so there you go. Philip DeFranco, a conversation with. Let's move on to the next podcast, which is Chris D'Elia, the Congratulations podcast. Chris is he's back to making podcasts. He took some time off for obvious reasons, but he is back now, and podcast studio is the same as it was before. But so let's talk about it. I mean, his podcast studio isn't really much of a studio. It's just a super simple wood panel background and he's got a desk with a wood top. It looks like the camera, there's a single camera angle, which is really just straight onto him at the entire time, kind of at I would say it looks like a 45 or so degree angle from the wall, because the table and the wall are kind of at an angle. He's got his laptop in front of him. He's got the microphone coming into frame, a cup of coffee on there. But other than that, that's it. Occasionally they'll pop up some images, some relevant images and things like that on the screen if it's necessary. But otherwise, it's super simple. Now, I think there's something to be said about having a simple podcast setup. In this case, he's a comedian. You know, unless you're someone like Carrot Top or Gallagher, where you go to a show with the expectation of seeing some kind of, performance with props and things like that. You know, a lot of comedians will go up on stage and it'll just be them and a microphone. Chris D'Elia is one of those comedians. So in his case, for a podcast based around a comedian just kind of talking and making jokes, I think this studio is perfectly fine. Like, what else do you really need from it? You could put some trinkets and things like that in the background. Would they add to it? I don't think so. It would be kind of cool, I think, to have another camera angle where there's a little bit, you like to see kind of the inner workings of things. So if you could have a wide angle to see him and his producer maybe off to the side, or maybe show a little bit more of the room, just to kind of add some visual interest. But as far as the studio itself goes, I kind of don't mind it, because you tune in to listen to him talk. You're not there to watch him engage with physical things on camera. He's on there talking. He's on there telling jokes. So you don't need a bunch of other stuff. Lighting wise, again, lighting is kind of flat. I'd probably play with the lighting a little bit, make it a little bit more visually interesting, give it a little bit more contrast, do kind of the more Rembrandt style lighting where you got a key light like this, which you can't see, but this big thing, so that I can kind of get that side lighting on the face, some nice shadows. But again, for his purposes, I think it works fine. No frills, good to go. And there's really not much else to say about it, because that's all his podcast is just the one scene. So on a scale of 1 to 10, Mr. D'Elia, this is tough because it's simple and it seems like they probably didn't put a ton of thought into it. It's like, okay, this is a nice wall. We'll just put a camera right here. We'll aim it, whatever, we get a light, good to go. On the other hand, maybe it was all intentional that they would do that. Pardon me here. It's allergy season in Vegas. But all right, so I'm gonna go with a 6.7 for this podcast studio because I think there's potential for it to be more. Again, it's not much of a studio really at all, but like you could, again, little lighting tweaks, maybe putting some things up on the wall that are a little more. I seem to remember him having like a fan submitted piece of art that they made for like the podcast that he used to put up on the wall, and that was kind of cool. So yeah, we'll go with the 6.7. Not bad, not the best, but you know. Let's go back to this angle for a bit. All right, next up, we're gonna go to Matti and Pete. Matti and Pete. So this is Matti Haapoja, and you know what? Let's go here. Matti Haapoja. I'm looking back. See, now I've got all my camera angles in different. Anyway, Matti Haapoja and Peter McKinnon. I'm sure most of you are familiar with them. Matti Haapoja, filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, both of them YouTubers, and they haven't produced shows in a while. I'm gonna turn on HD there. They haven't done any shows in a while. It's been like a few months, but so it's not something they're doing consistently, but I've enjoyed the conversations that they have when they do have the show. So let's go first and look through their camera angles. So they've got, as naturally as, you know, filmmaker YouTubers, you would have a few different camera angles. So here's one for the guests camera. There's an angle there. Here's one of, oops. Oh, great. We just went to a different video. There we go. We got this angle here, which is just Matti. Okay, good. And then I know there's got to be a wide. There we go. And then this is the wide shot. So the wide shot is very similar to the shot of the two of Peter and Kirk in this case. And now, you know, I assume, well, I don't know. Do they have one where it's like at the end of the table? I don't think they do. I think I would like to see a nice straight down the center shot, just straight down the table, instead of being off to the side. And I know that they do that so that all three faces can kind of be in frame. But to have a shot that would go straight up that table looking directly at that logo, which is obviously clear to see there, but, you know, again, the kind of wide shot, the behind the scenes shot that shows everything that's going on. And it doesn't look like they have that. So, of course, it's not a bad shot at all. And I enjoy the lighting. The lighting, to me, is very intimate. It almost appears as though they just have a single overhead light that's kind of shining directly down and kind of putting some dramatic lighting and contrast on the face. You can see where the shadows fall, like under, let's see, we'll go to maybe here. Just give me it. There. You can see like the bill of the hat casts a shadow on his face, which is an indication that there's just one kind of overhead light. They may have some hair lighting in there somewhere, but yeah, I mean, I like the dramatic lighting. It makes the rest of the room darker and focuses all the light on kind of that nice wood table and on the logo and on their faces, and in a way removes all other distractions. So I appreciate that about this. There's not a ton of knickknacks in the scene. That was clearly intentional. It seems like they want to take the focus away from stuff going on in the room and focusing it more on them and the conversation. And again, they're filmmakers, so they understand lighting and that type of thing, so you can't knock them there. Camera angles, talked about that. Would love to just see kind of the wide shot, maybe the behind-the-scenes production shot that they could switch to every now and then. Color-wise, yeah, color grade looks great. Top-notch there. So, yeah, I think my only critique then is really with this wide shot or just adding that one additional camera angle. But other than that, I like what they've done here. Oh, they've got a little remote in the frame. Should have kept that there. Going to have to knock a percentage point for that. So, but as far as rating goes for this one, I'm gonna go with an 8.3. Yeah, that feels right to me. In this case, they should have a very nice podcast studio because, again, the type of content they create, they should just have that. Wouldn't make sense if they didn't. All right. Next up, and it's already been 30 minutes. So I've got 8 in this episode. Maybe I'll do the first 4, and then we'll go to, and then we'll do the next 4 in the next one. So, okay. I think I want to revisit Joe Rogan. So it's been, I don't even remember how long it's been at this point, but I'm here. It's been a while since we talked about Joe Rogan, his podcast studio. I did an entire episode dedicated to critiquing his new studio. So you would think that at this point, he's had ample time to, make any upgrades or whatever. And I had a couple people chime in the comments like, it's a temporary studio. He's going to be moving, whatever, this and that. Doesn't matter. This is what we're critiquing. So, if you ask me, going back into it here, the studio looks exactly the same. In fact, it may even be a little bit worse. I've seen some episodes where he fixes the lighting a little bit and it looks a little bit better. In this case, though, I mean, I can't really defend this. Okay, let's go back. Let's start with lighting. So lighting here is awful. You have these super bright accent lights in the back that are kind of distracting. And then the guest's face are barely lit. Like there's barely any lighting on the face. They just blend in with the background. And it just doesn't look good. And these red walls are doing nothing but just reflecting red light off of everything. So you've got these super crazy red skin tones. And let's see, let's go find a... Okay, so here we are with Joe. And same thing with Joe. Joe just looks like, big red thing. They both look like they're very, very angry or very hot or have very high blood pressure because their skin looks so red. And I know from the past that there is a wide shot. I just don't know if they have one in this particular clip. No, I don't think they do. But even then, man, I don't know. Joe, I don't know. I guess all that Spotify money is just kind of keeping him from going out of his way to improve his video quality. It just seems like there's so much more that could be done. You got to turn down those accent lights in the background. They're too distracting. They're blown out. You got to give more light on the host and the guest. And I don't know. I don't like it. It's almost hard to watch. Again, there's no contrast. Everything blends into the background. Now you got to give style points because the room itself looks pretty cool. You've got those sound panels, those things with the funky designs behind Joe and the guests. Those are apparently sound panels for acoustics, and those look pretty neat. But then if you look at the red walls behind them, there's like a seam because they're in like a dome shaped thing. The seam behind them almost looks like bent cardboard, so it's kind of strange. It's as if there was some thought that was put into the studio. At the same time, excuse me, I burped. There was clearly some thought that was put into the design of the studio. But then it's like they almost reach a certain point. Like they were going for a cool looking studio. Like if you just stepped inside it, you'd be like, oh, this is a pretty cool looking place. But then as far as setting it up as a proper podcast studio with good lighting, flattering lighting, I think they dropped the ball. If they had some good lighting, if you could get some nice soft diffused lighting, like one of these soft boxes, and I know they're looks like a small space, and based on the shadow or the light here on Joe's head, it makes me believe that maybe they're not using, soft diffused lighting. They're using more like light panels, which I don't think I can show you. The light back there is like a light panel, and it leaves these shiny spots on their head. If you had the space for it, and if you had something more like this, you could focus the light here. You could have some nice soft shadows on the side of the face. There are ways to use like grids and things with lights that would, again, direct the light on the subject and then reduce the spill of light to the background. So you can still use accent lighting and things like that to illuminate the background so you can see the cool ambiance of the studio, but you have to illuminate the subjects. You have to make them the priority. And in this case, they look like part of the studio versus being them, and then the studio as being kind of like a separate thing. So again, I've heard that he's going to be moving to a new studio at some point. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with that and if they kind of improve upon the lighting that they have there. So Joe, I'm sorry to say, I got to give you points for at least attempting to make the partial attempt to create a cool podcast space. There's some points that you're going to get from that, but lighting is terrible. Set design is decent, but also lacks because of the lack of foresight on the colors, like the reds and with how it reflects off the skin. Camera angles are fine for me. I think the framing, I think Joe's a little bit far to the right side of the frame, especially because he's looking in that direction. It makes it feel like I would like the frame. I would like him to be a little bit more on the left side of the frame if he's looking across the frame like that. And then let me see. Same thing with Jim. There's all this empty space over here, and it just looks off. So I would change the camera positions a little bit. As far as where the cameras are located, I think that's fine. You just need to shift the framing a little bit. And then in the instances where there is a wide shot, I do appreciate the wide shot. Wouldn't change that a whole lot, but yeah, camera angles need to be changed. Color grading, again, not good, just based on, there's only going to be so much you can do with red light being reflected everywhere. So Joe, I got to go with a 3.7. I'm sorry. I'm not very impressed with your podcast studio. Let me know when you fix it up again. So anyway, that's a good place, I think, to start. Maybe next week, depends on if I think of something else to do. So next week I may get into the last four. I may skip a week and get back to it after that. We'll see. But the next time we're going to do Two Bears, One Cave. We're going to do the Adam Carolla Show. We're going to do Mind Pump. And we're going to do Flagrant, Andrew Schultz's podcast. So those will be on the list for next time. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and call this one done. If you enjoyed what you saw or what you heard, it would be great if you hit that subscribe button wherever you happen to be watching or listening. And again, be sure to follow me on social media at Ryan Hafey on Instagram and Twitter. And feel free to reach out after the show, ask me a question, or just say what's up. I enjoy that. But for now, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and end this one here. So keep on creating, making, and doing. We will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.